Here is an example of a genetics problem with a disorder involving X-linked inheritance. Hemophilia is a recessive X-linked disorder. Queen Victoria is a carrier of the recessive allele, while her husband Albert is normal. What are the chances that a prospective daughter could have hemophilia? What are the chances that a prospective son could have hemophilia? Before we get started with this one, we need to talk about notation to use for X-linked inheritance. X-linked inheritance means that the gene we're interested in is located on the X chromosome. So for our notation, we're going to use X's and Y's along with some superscripts. We'll have a dominant allele, so X with a superscript N. We also have a recessive allele, so we'll use X with a superscript little n, and we're also going to need to keep in mind that males have a Y chromosome. So any female is going to have two X's, and any male will have an X and a Y. And notice that the Y chromosome is empty. It does not carry an X-linked gene. Okay, given that, we can think about Queen Victoria. We can see that she is a carrier of the recessive allele. Carrier means that a person has the allele of interest, but they don't have the disorder associated with it. So that tells us that Queen Victoria is heterozygous for the hemophilia allele. So she will be X big N with an X little n. And her husband Albert is normal. Since Albert is a male, he's going to need an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. And since we're told that he's normal, he must be X big N with a Y. If he were X little n with a Y, he would have hemophilia. So in this case, our X big N is for normal. Our X little n is hemophilia. And again, the Y chromosome does not carry that allele. Once we have our parents' genotypes, we can figure out what types of gametes they will produce. Queen Victoria can pass on an X big N. So half of the eggs that she produces will contain X big N, and the other half will carry X with a little n. For Albert, half of the sperm that he produces will carry X with a big N, and the other half will carry his Y chromosome. Now we can put our gametes on a Punnett square. And find out what the genotypes of their possible offspring could be. Now, before we look at the specific alleles that they contain, we can already see that two possibilities here are for females, XX, and 2 out of 4 possibilities are XY for male. So there's a 50% chance female and 50% chance of having a male, having a boy. But the question is asking, what are the chances that a prospective daughter could have hemophilia? So we'll focus for the first part just on these two boxes, since these are the daughters. And we can see that this first daughter would have X big N with another X big N, so she would be normal. The second daughter has X big N with X little n. She would be a carrier just like her mother, but she does not have hemophilia. So there is a 0% chance that if these two people mate and have a daughter, that she would have hemophilia. For their prospective sons, we have two possibilities. X big N with a Y would be a normal male, an X little n with a Y, this would be a male that has hemophilia. So if we're only focused on the sons, there is a 1 out of 2 or a 50% chance that if they have a son, he will have hemophilia. And this problem illustrates one of the important characteristics of X-linked traits. They show up much more frequently in sons than they do in daughters. Because in order for a son to have hemophilia, he only needs to inherit one recessive allele, whereas for a female, she needs to inherit 2 alleles in order to have the disorder.